you had sent me a Snapchat, and you were pretty excited. You were playing on the main stage at a convention with the Vikings linebacker, uh, Al Kendricks, or Eric Kendricks. I'm sorry.
Eric Hendricks, yeah.
And yeah, you were super pumped about it. You sent me a picture, and I was like, that's pretty awesome. He's made it. He's done something that most people will never do, and so it was a proud moment for me.
All right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 8 of the Mercy Lens podcast. And this is something that I've been wanting to do for a very, very long time. Something where I get to record the podcast in person. Eventually, once COVID kind of settles down and we get back to being able to travel a little bit easier and stuff, I want to be able to do this with members in our community. But just right now, it's very limited. So I figured you might as well take advantage of everything going on. And with the amount of support that we've had from this podcast, thanks to the MPN community, I really just wanted to change it up a little bit. We've done 7 episodes, they've done great. We've had a lot of people provide feedback into what they like about the episodes and really what they want to see in the future of the Mercy Lens. And for me to keep it fresh and make it more engaging for our audience, I thought maybe doing an in-person podcast would be a great opportunity. And so here I am this weekend, and we're going to try it. We're going to see how it does. And you guys can let us know in the comments down below what you thought of today's podcast. So it just so happens that on top of switching things up, I have a very special guest with me for today's episode. It is my dad, Chet Ayers, the father of the legendary MPN Evolution, as you guys know me as. But um, yeah, I mean, he hasn't had anything specifically to do with the MPN community, but he's been a part of my journey leading up into what I know and what I've given and everything that I put into the community. And he's gotten to watch it really grow from something of just being a hobby into something that I take very serious, community and organization and esports business. And so I'm going to bring him on today. We're going to talk a little bit about some family life that a lot of you probably don't know up to this point, and we're going to talk about what he knows about the MPN community just from what we've done over the last couple of years for sure. So, welcome
Thank you.
to the show. So, the reason why this episode is going to be so different is because everybody that I've brought on as guests leading up to this have all been a part of the community. They've started out in the rank structures that we have provided, and they've worked their way up to where they are when they come on to the show. You having not really anything, I guess, to do with the community necessarily, and knowing that how we operate, but you've gotten to see it from the outside looking in, and what I've been able to invest, obviously being a parent. So that's why I'm super excited to get to do this episode, something completely different. And I'm just going to change it up and kind of just like, I guess from the top of my head, just kind of spin this show into something that it's never been before up to this point. So let's start from the beginning for you, like I do with everybody else. I always ask, what made you have interest in gaming? Because me growing up in the games that I played, I think you had a big influence into making that all possible. Obviously, buying me the video games, the consoles, and everything that I did growing up. What did you start out playing? What was it like for you as a young gamer?
Initially, my first gaming system was uh, we didn't have the money back in the day for the Atari, which was the high tech one that everybody had. So my family chose a gaming system called the ColecoVision, and we had two games. It was Smurfs Adventures and Donkey Kong. So my initial gaming experience was pretty limited, but at the time, all my friends had the Atari, and so when I wanted to play that stuff, I would go to their house and play those games. And for them to come to my house, it was basically Donkey Kong because none of my friends wanted to play Smurfs Adventures. Understandably so.
Yeah, I don't think there was probably a huge
You
demand
know,
for the Smurfs Adventures, but obviously Donkey Kong, being the worldwide phenomenon that it was and still kind of is, for sure. So, um, I guess I just want to fast forward a little bit now into me growing up, as far back as I can personally remember. Then we'll take it back to where you remember me as a gamer, because I think I've always been. I like to at least picture myself always being kind of that nerdy kid, right? I've been known to joke about you know my skinniness, I guess, if you will. I wasn't really built to be a football player. I wasn't built to be a basketball player or anything like that. So my go-to thing was always video games. It was something that I was good at, and I still consider myself a bit of a gunner out there on Call of Duty too, as much as people don't like to admit it. But what I guess from what I remember is kind of for me, I think I know I played other games, but the N64 was kind of where it all started for me. I think that was my first console. I remember really like logging hours and hours upon. I remember when Donkey Kong 64 came out, you had to have the special red memory card to put inside of it. And we got the game, but we didn't get the memory card. And it wouldn't play off the regular Nintendo 64 memory card. So you guys had to drive to Walmart where they still had the consoles you could break your neck playing and demo out. But you had to buy a special, like $60 at the time, which was a lot during the N64 days, memory card for that game specifically. So I remember you having to drive me out there and pick up that memory card and stuff so I could play the games that I wanted to play. But definitely, I think that's where it started out for me was Donkey Kong 64, Super Mario World 64. It might have been called Super Mario World was on the Super Nintendo, and then they had Mario 64 or whatever it was called on the Nintendo 64. Diddy Kong Racing, I feel like that game is so like underappreciated for a racing game. Everyone talks about Mario Kart, and although it is a very fun game and it still is super popular, Diddy Kong Racing was more of my cup of tea. I really enjoyed that one. So kind of run everybody back. I mean, what do you remember starting out with me gaming and then evolving up until eventually me moving out? Happened several years later. But what was that like watching me kind of start out from the whatever console you remember back to versus, uh, you know, my later years, if you will, for gaming?
I actually remember a little bit prior to that when we had our dial-up internet and you were on the computer and you were trying to do what little gaming was available at the time on the internet, and getting so mad when it would log or bog down and lag and everything. And so you were always so furious every time it would lag. And then I remember you going into the 64 and then eventually into the PlayStation. And that's more when you and I started playing games together. It was when the PlayStation happened. And that was that was more of the memories that I take away from your early gaming situation.
Yeah, I just a couple episodes ago on, I think it was episode 6 maybe, the one with Demigod. He talked about his dad whooping him up in Madden, and I shared a quick story about you doing the same to me. I think it was like NCAA, what was it, 99 or
I think it
something
was
like
99.
that,
Yeah.
on the original PlayStation. And then Madden was another one. I can't remember. Was it like Terrell Davis or something on the cover of that game? Like Madden.
I believe, yeah, he was on the
It was probably Madden 99,
yeah,
I suppose.
I'm pretty sure that was about what it was. Yeah.
And I told the story about how you would literally be beating me at halftime by 40 plus points, depending on the day, and then switching me controllers. We'd just pass controllers, and then you would come back and beat me with the team that I had not scored with, you'd come back and beat me, and you found pleasure in that. So explain to the audience a little bit of that, I guess, what it was like, because I already told my end of the story and the amount of embarrassment that I took on as a young kid. So tell me what it was like for a parent to get to beat up on their kid for a little while in some sports games.
Well, I think for me as a parent, it was more of uh, I'm competitive as well, just like yourself. But so for me, it was like, all right, I'm gonna put a beating on him in the first half, and then I'm gonna make him earn a win because he's gonna appreciate later that he earned that win. And it did happen a time or two, not very often, but a time or two, you were able to come back and oh, I wasn't able to overcome the lead I had in the first half, and it took me quite a while to figure out that need to do just enough in the first half to be able to come back, and instead of just totally
Oh
blowing you
yeah.
out in the first half. So it took me a little while to come up with that and realize that the more the more of a lead I had in the first half, the bigger deficit I had to overcome. But I think all in all, it taught you to to have a bigger drive, and I don't think necessarily that was my intent at the time, but it did work out that way, and I'm glad it did. So
Well, I'm just thinking, like back when those days were happening, when you were putting the beat downs on me in football games, you were probably around my age, right? Like maybe even a couple years younger.
yeah, I think I was probably yeah, I was probably 27, 28 years old, you know, 30 at the most. So I as competitive as I was at the time, I understand where you're at now. Um, that I
And
think
the beat down I would just lay on my own kid if I had one
yeah,
that could play video
yeah, and
games.
and
Like,
and it's kind of in the back of my mind. I hope this translates for the future. He does the same thing because, like I said, in hindsight, I guess I didn't think so much that it would put some drive into you, but it did, and I saw that fairly early on that your competitiveness was just like mine, and that at some point you were going to get me, and you did, and I'm happy for it because I think it definitely made you the person you are now.
yeah, man, I just so many memories in the living room of playing the PlayStation and I remember eventually getting to the point where like you pass down the PlayStation, if you will.
Yeah,
Like now I can be taken into my room and I can play it whenever I want rather than at the time, you were 26, 27, 28, my age essentially. I mean, the console was yours. Me as a kid, I didn't own that PlayStation, so it was I played it when I got an opportunity, and then I remember the day you passed it down and like said, okay, this is yours now, and you can play it whenever you want, kind of thing. But fast forward a little bit, I guess from there, like I remember the next chapter of gaming was the Tony Hawk games were really really popular
yeah,
shortly after the football stuff when we were competing on that a lot, and so I think it was Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2
yeah,
was probably the biggest title that you and I played, and we used to like play together where you'd unlock. Remember, you have to get like
yeah,
the letters SKATE around the entire
yeah.
map, and you had to do all these different challenges. And I know that they've since remastered the game on PlayStation 4. I actually have it on there, but it just wasn't the same as the original PlayStation. But I remember like you and I used to work together to like get all those challenges done
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And I would wake up and you'd be playing it because you worked early hours back then.
Hmm.
And so you'd be up a little bit before work, or you'd be on and playing before I'd get out of school. Then I'd come home and then you'd let me play for a little while too. It was just a really really cool experience because back then at that point in time, I guess I don't remember how old I was, but I was old enough to obviously see what was going on where you were playing and the free time that you had away from taking care of kids and a family, And then when I would get home from school, you'd let me play for a couple hours until it was, dinner time or whatever. But just a completely different world that we live in now, pre like internet, what we know it to be. We had dial-up internet where you had to unplug the phone, and I guess to involve my mom a little bit as well. I mean, she was on that thing nonstop. It felt like as a kid, where she'd be talking on the phone, I'd want to get on the computer and look something up. Remember, just a random thought, GTA was kind of a thing too. So the cheat codes, you had to get online and punch in, how to get the cheat codes for all those games, and it seemed like she was on the phone nonstop. I could never do it. But pre like just coming home and expecting the internet like we do now, it had to be planned out. So I guess more or less, and just growing up in those days, it was a totally different time. Times that a lot of our members now in MPN never experienced, and it's just something that I've been wanting to share over the course of time, and I just never really knew who to bring on to get to tell those stories with, and so I'm glad that we get to today. Um, with all of that said, I guess let's take a quick break. Give a shout out to the sponsors. We got Merciless Threads coming on and sponsoring today's show. So we'll give a quick shout out to them and talk about how that company has really taken off with MPN in the way that it has over the last year or so. And when we come back, we'll share some more stories with everybody and hopefully, wrap it up with some MPN community talk here in the next few minutes. So again, quick shout out to Merciless Threads, and we'll be right back. All right. We want to give a special shout out to the sponsor of today's episode, Merciless Threads, coming on board, a new sponsor here for this episode. And as many of you probably already know, MPN offers a bunch of different prestiges or tiers that we have for our members to be able to contribute to the community and make everything that we have possible. And part of the benefits in some of those packages include a free MPN branded t-shirt. Merciless Threads handles all of the labor behind the scenes that makes all of that possible, starting with the designing, the printing, and then the shipping to all of our members to enjoy that are subscribed to those tiers. They've been a big part in making all of that possible, coming on board and really stepping up their game to handle all of everything that we need as far as t-shirts goes. I'm actually wearing their latest VIP only issued t-shirt. We sent it out to a bunch of different supporters around the community that have been helping us out for the last 6 months or so. And again, it's been a fun process to get to work with them on a community level, and now we get to work with them on a podcast level. So it's been just a true experience, a blessing, and we're really excited to continue to work with them. So Merciless Threads, make sure to go follow them on Twitter and on Instagram to stay updated on all of the products that they're releasing as they continue to start up their business and expand into a bunch of different things. We'll see. Don't count anything out yet, but t-shirts obviously being the main one for now. So check out their work. Merciless Thread on Twitter and Merciless Threads on Instagram. All right, welcome back, everybody. We are here with my dad again. Chet Ayers hanging out with me, and actually, I'm hanging out with him. I guess I'm at your house. So, I'm very thankful that we get to take this opportunity to do a podcast like this. We're outside. It's beautiful weather down here, and we're just chilling, having some fun. And I said, you know what? I got everything to do a podcast. What do you think about doing it? And you're like, yeah, let's do it. So appreciate that. Appreciate you taking the time to get to do this, because it's something that not a lot of people get to do. For somebody to come up and visit one of their parents, it doesn't matter who, and just says you want to do a podcast, and they say, yeah, that's really cool. So I appreciate it. And we're here, we're making it happen, we're sharing some stories, which has been cool to go down memory lane on what it was like for me growing up to this point. We talked about the early days, right? Like pre-internet, so to say, and I say internet meaning like what we're used to nowadays. There was obviously internet back then, but just very limited. Back then, I don't even think we had internet on our phones,
No,
if I
no.
remember. I mean, you didn't. That was you guys remember the cool thing that parents had. I remember you and mom always flaunting it was the walkie-talkie Nokias,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
the two-way pager type things that you could just like walkie-talkie people with on your cell phone. But anyway, so let's fast forward. When was like the point in time do you think where you realized that this became more than just gaming for me? Like everybody at my age, I think, kind of enjoyed gaming at one point in their life. Whether or not they do now, that's up to whatever. But when do you think like because I talk to you a lot about it now, but when did you see that point in time where that all changed as far as the way that you started to notice that gaming was a bit more serious than just a hobby for me?
I guess it would probably been when you were like 15, 16 years old. Um, you stopped by my house and you told me you were going to Des Moines to play in some big tournament, which meant nothing to me at the time. Um, but I was like, oh, okay, yeah, have a good time, whatever. But when you got back and how passionate you were about how well your team did, um, and I realized that okay, he's pretty serious about this. He's going to move forward with this. And then here a few years ago, you had sent me a Snapchat, and you were pretty excited. You were playing on the main stage at a convention with the Vikings linebacker, uh, Al Kendricks, or Eric Kendricks. I'm sorry.
Eric Hendricks, yeah.
And yeah, you're super pumped about it. You sent me a picture, and I was like, that's pretty awesome. He's made it. He's done something that most people will never do, and so it was a proud moment for me.
Yeah, the tournament that you're talking about was the Iowa Pro Gaming Challenge, and that's it would have been probably right after MPN was started. And I've said it on several different podcasts or just in different voice meetings or whatever that I talk about in is uh, I started MPN when I was 16 or I was 15, March 1st, 2010, and that tournament would have been right after I turned 16. So MPN would have just started, and it was one of the few times I've met somebody within MPN um, that I got to meet in person that I wasn't already friends with. Obviously, Cody being one of the co-creators of MPN is how I title him. Whether or not I consider him one, that's up in the air, and I give him a lot of grief over that. And I'm sure, if I doubt he's watching, but if he is, he knows you weren't as big of a contributor, Cody. Nah, I'm kidding. Uh, but shout out to Notorious. You guys see him around the Discord server for those of you in the community. Um, but yeah, I mean, it was a really cool point in time. I had just turned 16, and I remember I traveled to St. Charles, Illinois, to pick up one of our teammates that was going to play in this tournament with us, and it was MPN Chupacabra was his gamer tag, and I remember meeting his parents because we were not 18 yet, and we were playing in a tournament essentially across the state for me and 2 states for him. And so I met his parents. I told them what we were doing, and we were taking it pretty serious. And then we ended up crashing at your place, right?
Yeah.
The first night.
Yep.
We did a big like LAN party where we all played on a TV in the basement. And the night before, didn't get much sleep. Woke up and we were on the road. Black and Yellow by Wiz Khalifa was a popular
Yeah.
song at the time because we were blaring that going down the interstate. I remember all the way to Des Moines. But then getting there, it was such a cool experience because there was people that I had been networking with, and you just don't really realize it, I guess, back then. People that I'm still friends with to this day, 12 years ago now. where the guy that ran that tournament, the guy that ran the Iowa Pro Gaming Challenge, I just bought one of his books. He's a very successful entrepreneur, and that's somebody that I'm friends with on Facebook. You know what I mean? I met people that were professionals. Ninja, and you probably don't know who
No.
Ninja is. The Twitch streamer, the pro Halo player, he played at this tournament before he was the ninja that we all know now, one of the biggest Twitch streamers of all time. Somebody that really, at the time, I thought was super annoying. He was standing up at the monitors and he's screaming at, the players he was playing against and doing a little bit of trash talking. I thought,
But
wow.
that's you now.
Yeah, now that's
Right?
me. Because he now plays such a big influence on me. And these are people that I got to meet pre, I guess for Ninja celebrity status. I mean, he really makes me look like I haven't done anything. But it was really cool to get to meet him before he was as big as he is now. And if really anything, I guess to just give a shout out to Ninja, although my shout outs to him probably don't mean a whole lot, but like he is what he is now. I mean, he's a genuine Midwestern guy. He's grown up around gaming the same way that I have, and just took a different path. And it was really cool to get to meet him and realize, his competitive drive, the same one that I had. And although he was playing Halo and I was there for Call of Duty, we're both competitors at heart. And I guess to wrap up that whole first tournament, I mean, we ended up playing Call of Duty Pro, Nameless, and Ricky, who are both retired now, but we played them on the main stage. Like, that's something that you can find on YouTube somewhere. Before Nameless went pro, he ended up going pro after this tournament because they won it. We played him on the main stage, and that's something that as a 16-year-old we didn't win the tournament, so I thought it was cool. I thought we placed very well, but at the same time, didn't know any better. I wanted to win, you know what I mean? Because I am competitive in that nature. But looking back on it now, several years later, it's almost 2022. Those are memories that I'll have forever with those people. It was really cool to get to network like that at 16 years old, and to be able to take it as serious as we did was so much fun. And at the time, you didn't look at it the same way that you look at it now that I'm an adult. And I guess it kind of ties in with the Eric Kendricks moment because, that was what, 2 years ago, I think.
I think so. I think it was 2018, maybe.
Yeah, the convention you're referencing was the Player Up tournament. It was at Mystic Lake Casino. And the reason why that one meant so much to me was because it was the first event that I kind of lone wolfed, meaning I didn't take anybody with me. I went up there by myself. And the coolest part, besides playing Eric Kendricks, which I'll get to in a minute, was wearing my MPN hoodie. It was our first hoodie that we ever made. And somebody recognizing me at that convention from Twitter and seeing my Twitter posts and like coming up to me and saying like, hey, I recognize you. It's good to finally meet you in person. And that was super cool to me. It tells me how close this whole gaming community really is. And that's something that I've worked really, really hard in establishing is, obviously making the MPN brand known to where somebody saw it on a sweatshirt and approached me about it, but also for myself too a little bit, like, making this gaming community better for others than what I came into and kind of evolving that into what it is and being a big part of that. Seeing that now transcend into, people recognizing me is obviously very flattering and very cool, and I appreciate that so much. But it was the branding that, somebody saw it on a sweater and said, hey, I recognize you. It's MPN.
Yeah.
That was really cool for me to do so close to home too, because I talk about it all the time too. Living in a small town, the gaming is pretty limited, but to be able to go up to Minneapolis and have somebody pick me out of several hundred member crowd was really, really cool. And And what was cool about that event, on top of all of that, was it was the time that Minnesota released. The reason why I was up there was they announced their Call of Duty team name was the big hype, because they switched from just anybody could be a Call of Duty team to where you had to buy a franchise tag essentially, and then now you represent a city. And Minneapolis was one of the 12 starting Call of Duty teams that still to this day have a high level performing team. And so I went up there to hear firsthand what their name was going to be. It became the Minnesota Rocker, which is like a spin off of that Viking type theme. And but they made it their own at the same time. It was super cool. I got to talk to Midnight, who was an Optic Gaming content creator. She's done so much, not even just for women in gaming, but just for streaming and content creation in general. She's somebody I've been looking up to since her days in Optic Gaming. Obviously, I mean, I'm wearing Hex right now, his clothing, the owner of Optic Gaming, and just how much she and that organization played a part into what I do today. And then I got to meet Brett Diamond, who is the COO of the Minnesota Rocker, who previously worked for the Minnesota Vikings. So, I mean, I got to talk to these people one-on-one. It was such a cool experience. And then to go up on the main stage to end it all after all of that, I got beat by Eric Kendricks, which, yeah, it is what it is. I mean, we had to be, it was like a demo type of the game, I guess. We had to pick the two teams that were on the demo version of the game, which I can't remember if he was the Vikings and I think I was the Bears or something like that, which I would have never picked the Bears. I mean, I can't live with myself. Yeah, if that was my choice. But yeah, we got to play. I think he beat me by a field goal, if I remember right. I never did score a touchdown on him, which him being a defensive player probably looks good for his reputation. But yeah, that was amazing. I got a lot of cool pictures from that event. I got to watch. There was, after all of that, on top of it, there was an actual gaming event going on there, and I was going to be scouting some of the players that we're playing to hopefully bring on to our esports side of MPN, which we ended up launching a little bit later than that. So it didn't really culminate to too much, but you know, I met a lot of cool people. And again, similar to the Iowa Pro Gaming Challenge, probably 10, 12 years previous to that, to network with those people the way that I did was really a unique experience, and something that, you know, made it more than just gaming. It was a meeting people with similar interests to me, and similar lifestyles, and you know, people that really just wanted to make gaming that, you know, take gaming that much higher than what it is seen as just a kind of a side hobby, you know. And now that we're seeing it become more and more of a trending thing, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So let's cut it off at, we're getting about to our mark here. Can you think of a time where, because I feel like MPN's been around since March 1st, 2010. It's now September 2021. And I feel like I really didn't talk about MPN that much when it first started, because it really, you know, was meant to be just a gaming clan, just a bunch of us friends that hung out online and played video games. And now it's become, you know, a gaming community with over 1,000 members in it, registered, active. They're out there, you know, representing us on consoles, PC. They're out there representing us with apparel. You know, I hear stories all the time about somebody wearing an MPN shirt and then another member seeing that person out in public and then approaching them, similar to what I just told. And it's so cool to share. But I guess to kind of bring it around, and before we end it, like, is there any point in time in particular where maybe you thought MPN was a bit more than just this gaming clan that I kind of very rarely, if we're being honest with each other, talk to you about? You know what I mean? Like, now it's something I feel like we talk a lot about, with everything that's going on, and even the merciless threads, which I said we were going to talk about, and I still haven't because I've been rambling. But I mean, is there a point in time where all of that became like more of what do you remember that as when it became more of a regular conversation between you and I amongst like Snapchat and phone calls and text messages and stuff like that?
I I think I remember. I would say 2017, maybe somewhere between 2016 2018, somewhere in there. I remember you talking more and more about it, and I think officially maybe by 2018 I realized, okay, this is something serious. He's really putting his heart and soul into all of this, um, and then when you started the shirts and things, I knew that you were taking it further than what I ever expected it to be, and maybe even more than what you expected it to be. But I feel like at that point it was definitely something that was going to progress and build, and so you know I can honestly say that I wasn't super supportive before that because I thought maybe it was just a phase. You're going to do this for a little while, and then you were just going to go back into. You were still going to game. Don't get me wrong, but I didn't feel like you were going to pursue the more of the business side of it, more of uh, gathering people in and things. And I think at that point I realized, okay, he can do this, and he's dead serious about this, and he's going to make a run for it. So yeah, at that point I think I was completely convinced that this is one of his passions, and he's gonna go with it. So
I think the more and more that we talk about it, and I bounce ideas off of you from a lot of times, honestly, and it all kind of started really in 2018 is when it really started picking up. When I made the switch to PlayStation from Xbox, I was always
yeah,
I had the Xbox 360, then later the Xbox One. Then I jumped back over to the PlayStation 4, and that's really when I'd I like to kind of say is when I really took it more than just a hobby. I started pouring everything I had into it and really investing not only my own ideas but ideas from other people that I got to know throughout the gaming industry. Um, Man, I remember starting out streaming on Twitch without a camera and just like basically you just watched whatever I was playing.
yeah,
And I remember, I'd send you Snapchat links of that stream, and you'd watch it for a while, and maybe you left it on or you didn't, but you'd give me feedback on that. Later, we did events and stuff like
yeah,
that. Whenever we do cool events, I'll send you the link to it, and you'll check it out. And you're always impressed by the amount of people that tune in and support the community that we do. You're just like, wow. I mean, last time I watched an event, it was this number, and now it's this number, and you can
mm-hmm.
see the difference there. Um, and then later now into our esports side of MPN that we're building with the Call of Duty matches that we were playing, and now our Rocket League, our Apex Legends, and everything that we're doing on our esports side. You've been watching and paying attention to because our brand is stamped on a broadcast somewhere, competing, and those players are representing everything that I've believed in and everything that you've helped instill into me throughout the competitiveness side, at least of MPN, and what I've learned from gaming. And really it all, I don't know, maybe it would be, maybe it wouldn't be. It's fun to kind of think about, but like, you were a big part of creating the gamer that I am by supporting the games that were available at the time. Although again, I feel like I've said it a few times where the internet wasn't the internet back
Yeah,
then, but that made it that much more important for as a parent to play that role and to supporting video games, because most parents even still to this day would just shake it off and say you're not playing video games, go to work and stuff. And you were able to balance that out for me to where you realized that I loved playing video games, but still were able to instill the work ethic and everything that goes behind making MPN work, the
yeah,
way that it does, um, amongst myself and all the hours that I put into it, on top of everything else that I do on a professional level. But there's people all across the country that now I get to work with and team with and instill those same values in our community. People that believe in the same vision that we have for MPN, they're out there continuing that vision and achieving those goals that we set, and it's really really cool to see. And it's cool to just sit back tonight and just think about all that,
Yeah,
how
sure.
it all started and where it's at now, because it's easy to get caught up in the moments now that are frustrating and don't work out the ways that you want to. But man, it's been such a journey
Came
up
a
and
long way for sure.
yeah, up until this point. And so you got to just take some time to sit back and
Reflect a little bit.
reflect. Absolutely. And it's really cool that we get to do so tonight on a perfect day,
Yeah.
enjoying some deck drinks and just talking, things that I feel like we've talked about before but don't talk about every time we get together, right?
Right.
Growing up and,
Yep.
and enjoying those moments together. And it was really cool to hear your story, from a parent perspective as a father who, raised a gamer at heart. And, the oh, I'm going to say it. It's such a pun that I hate. The evolution of my life, of how it went from a small toddler gamer to a teenage gamer and to the adult gamer that I am, and to having somebody that supports that, I feel like unfortunately isn't happening enough, or could happen more. And you know it is what it is. But I'm glad to see that gaming is becoming more and more socially acceptable. Kyler Murray is streaming now. D-Book, the Suns in 4 didn't work out that way, but you know, he was a big reason why I was cheering on the Suns in the playoffs and for the championship, because he's a big gamer. It's really cool to see all that tie in together. So, before we cut it out, right at the end here, I just wanted to do something even cheesier than the fun I just made. But I did have a shirt made just for you. And this is, I'll get closer to the computer so you can hear me, but for those of you that can't see, here's a snapshot of the shirt. But this is made just for you. It's, I'll sit back down so everyone can hear me better, but it's the very first
Nice.
shirt to ever come out of the Merciless Threads headquarters. And it's a project that I've been working very hard on, printing, shirts, quality shirts that aren't just, something that you can make yourself at home, but being able to have an industrial side of Merciless Threads and everything that goes into learning and then buying the equipment to do it and then actually doing it. Months it took me to learn that, and it was something that I talked to you a lot about, and investing in, and you being able to see the progression through all of that. It meant a lot that you were there to support me for it. So that's the first shirt that I didn't make for myself, right there. And whether you wear it or just hold on to it, I hope you get to remember this podcast and being able to do that. So
Absolutely, that's very cool. Thank you.
So yeah, those of you that are a part of the Prestige program, you guys have the similar, pretty much they're the same shirt designs. They were made after that one there. I hope same quality. Those of you that got those shirts, how nervous I am to hear about what you guys think of those designs and stuff like that, because not only did I design them, but I literally hand printed them in my basement and made it all work. I mean, I have a full blown setup, and most people think like grungy basements, but it has to be clean for the ink to stick to the shirts, for the shirts to come out with a quality, to be able to wash them, several times and still hold that quality. It's something I tested for months and made sure that I had everything to be able to legitly run a business out of my house and provide quality shirts for people that support our community. So those of you guys that are watching that are Prestige members, thank you guys so much for being able to be a part of this and contribute to the community. And it, lights even more of a fire for me to be able to continue to progress our organization and our community of gamers. like you said, you know, it became something more than we both thought it could be.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, and I'm gonna take that ball and run with it, man. And I'm really excited for the future of MPN, and you know, I really wanted to bring you on because not only have you supported all of it, and you know, whether it was saying things to pick me back up on down days when things aren't going the way that I want to, or if it's, you know, tuning into the streams that we do on the MPN channels or on my own Twitch channel, and just supporting that, and then, you know, the 16 plus years before that went into all of that, into what it is today. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you're more than welcome. It was good to be a part of the journey for sure.
Yeah. All right, guys, that's gonna do it. Let me know what you guys think of the episode today. You know, kind of, I don't think it's makeshift at all what we got set up here. I think this is pretty cool.
Yeah,
It didn't take long to set up, but you know, I'm looking forward to getting to do this more in person with other people, and doing some traveling. I think would be really cool with some of our members. But appreciate you coming on and being the first to test it all out here outdoors. I'm sure there's a bunch of background noise and stuff going on, but hey, it adds to the realness of everything, and that's what we're trying to achieve with this podcast, is making it as real as possible, as personable as possible, and allows us to get to know everybody involved in MPN on a different level. So I hope you guys got to learn a little bit about me, because I feel like we haven't done that yet, but also learn a bit about my dad as well, and everything that he's been able to contribute to MPN on a personal level. So appreciate everybody watching, listening, whether you're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or on YouTube for the video. Thank you guys so much. Make sure to, again, leave a like or subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment down below with what you thought of today's video, because it's something completely new. I'm used to doing this stuff on Discord, and today we got to do it in person. So it was really, really cool. And yeah, let us know what you guys think. More importantly than ever, we really need the feedback. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you to Merciless Threads for sponsoring today's episode. And we'll see you all next week on the Mercy Lens. Thank you.